Brings up a very important point, which is that we are acknowledging and honoring the sacrifices made by these soldiers, and it seems like we do this only very sporadically, which is say not just honor but pay attention to the fact that people have fought and sacrificed for this country and continue to in our armed conflicts overseas. On the subject of discrimination, I wonder, as someone who has reported extensively on the military, we're talking about discrimination based on race or religion, and I think it's a wonderful thing that, you know, we've sort of come to terms with our legacy of discrimination in these sort of areas and are trying to right the wrongs of the past. Do you feel like, or in your reporting, do you sense that the military now more integrated than it has been, both in terms of women, in terms of LGBT service members? Do you feel like the question of discrimination, we are headed towards a more perfect union, as it were, on that, and that the armed services will, whether or not they will actually need to make concessions like these for female service members or LGBT service members 50 years hence?
Well, those are big policy issues, but all of those issues, the LGBT issue, the racial issues, all of those things have long ago been solved on the battlefield, where, as General McCaffrey was saying, the camaraderie, the intense love that's built up between combat soldiers and Marines that enables them to say, yeah, I'll give up my life for you, and I know that you'll give up your life for me. That's just overridden all those other differences, so that in an infantry platoon or a fire team or a squad, you know, you'll find people from lots of different backgrounds, and all those issues have just gone away. It doesn't matter out there. And it's nice to see finally the bureaucracy catching up with these guys and saying, okay, yeah, I guess we could let women serve. Okay, I guess, you know, gays, that's okay. We'll let them serve too. And in this case, you know, going back through the records painstakingly and correcting those wrongs that have been done to these men.
Yeah, Colonel Jack, in terms of the bureaucracy catching up to the camaraderie and the color blindness, if you will, that is on the field, what was this? I mean, if you can remember back in 2002, this was, Congress passed this as part of the Defense Authorization Act. Was there, I mean, what was the resistance in terms of the DOD in A, acknowledging that there had been discrimination and then moving towards correcting that discrimination?
Well, you know, this isn't the first time there's been a directed review of files to determine who may be should be awarded the medal, or any other medal, as a matter of fact. But we're not, for a wide variety of reasons. Some years ago, I remember that there was a review of the actions of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, the most highly decorated American unit in the Second World War, that was populated almost exclusively by Japanese Americans. And these were kids who were in concentration camps, effectively, after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. And among the awardees was Daniel Inouye, who served for many years in the Senate.
Of course.
The Defense Department reviews, either by direction or otherwise, fairly regularly from time to time, the records of those who have been recommended, just to make sure that the right people, the right actions are recognized. But they can't get them all. I'm reminded of an observation of Bob Kerry, Medal of Honor recipient, Vietnam, lost his leg, was a senator from Nebraska for many years. Somebody once asked him, what does it take to receive the Medal of Honor? He said, well, 4 things. You have to do something, people have to see it, they have to be able to fight, and they can't hate you. Those are the requirements. You think about all the people who served valiantly in combat. Nobody saw it, or people saw it and they themselves were killed, or accidentally or on purpose, their recommendations were lost or destroyed. And you realize why we say, anybody who served in combat says, that we all fought for each other, and we wear our awards for everybody else.
You know, some of the stories, Dave, today brought tears to my eyes and obviously the eyes of those in the audience. And the sense of sacrifice and bravery, we talk a lot about that. You have a new series of pieces on the Huffington Post that talk about the moral injury that some soldiers face, which is, I mean, sort of the psychological part of fighting a war, leaves scars that are as deep and as profound and unhealed as many of the physical injuries sustained on the battlefield. Tell us a little bit more about the series and what it's all about.
You know, it's commonplace to observe that that many veterans come home and don't talk about what happened. They will not talk about their war experiences, and that's because a lot of bad things happen in war. And what we're discovering is that many of these kinds of experiences can be classified as moral injuries, which is a broad umbrella term that refers to the bad things that happen in combat that violate your own sense of right and wrong and the way the world's supposed to be, or your sense of yourself as a good person. For example, I've talked to many Army medics who on the battlefield they're superb trauma, take care of people who are very badly injured. Almost inevitably, they come up against a case where a soldier or a Marine is mortally wounded and cannot be saved. Well, those medics feel such sorrow and grief at losing a close comrade, but also guilt. There was something I didn't do. I forgot something. I didn't have this piece of equipment. They take it on themselves. I'm a bad person. I let this person die. Yeah. That's moral injury. And it affects in lots of different variations, I think, almost everybody who goes to war.
It's fascinating, I think, another facet of war and soldiers and veterans and what they sustain, and it's an important read. Thank you for joining us, Dave Wood, as always.